Hello there, Ray here, and I'm joined by a Square.
Hello.
And today we're going to show you how it's possible to get item stacks of over 2.1 billion in survival. One of the very first videos I showed was a cool glitch that you could do with brewing stands where you could shift click bottles into the brewing stand, and I actually used this to make an automatic brewing system taking a comparator output directly from the brewing stand. And I did a later video explaining exactly how this works and how you can stack over 64 items in a single stack using this glitch. But I didn't really take it to the extremes, and today with Square we're going to show you how you can take this glitch to the extreme and some of the cool tricks that can be done with it. So using the trick where you can shift click individual bottles into a brewing stand, you can get whole stacks inside of here. Then you can click on the original stack and any other stacks inside of here, and you can increase the stack size that you have in your hand. So if I click on this one, now you see I have 80 in my hand. Now the items have to be shift clicked into the brewing stand individually and by the player. You can't just have a hopper back here that is putting individual stacks into it. What will happen is that essentially it will just fill up the bottom ones and it won't continually just stack them like a player does. Now the way you do this in survival, to go up to extremely high numbers in survival, you'd have to have a friend that would be resupplying the brewing stand with individual bottles. Since the player already has his hand being used to hold the stack, and you cannot really place a stack down in your inventory without it being moved back into only stacks of 64. So you can see a squared has reprimed the brewing stand. So I can go ahead and click the stack that's in my hand with the items that are also in the brewing stand, and I can increase my stack. And you can continue to do this until you reach the maximum number that the game will allow you to stack, which is 2,147,483,647. A square is going to explain how this can occur and also show you what it looks like to actually get that many glass bottles in a single stack.
This bug comes from an oversight in the code that handles putting items in the brewing stand. The brewing stand is supposed to have a limit of one item in the bottom potion slot. However, this limit is ignored when shift-clicking a single empty bottle into the stand. Then, the code that handles adding to the stack you are holding compares the difference between the listed max number in the slot and how many are in the slot to see how many items should be removed from your stack and put into the target slot. In the normal case, like a chest, this method works properly. 64 minus any other number less than 64 is always positive or 0 and shows the actual number of items that can be inserted before the stack is full. However, if the limit is less than 64, but more than that limit is inserted, which is the case for brewing stands, this number is negative. Removing the negative number from your stack adds to it, and adding the negative number to the target stack removes from it. No items are duplicated, the total is still the same, but the stack you are holding is not checked and can be made greater than 64. Here you can see what happens when you go above the maximum value that can be stored in the item stack you are holding. Internally, the stack becomes negative, but there are failsafes that end up just deleting the stack instead. Quite disappointing for what would be normally 10 days of clicking perfectly and using a command block to fill it constantly.
Now, even though you can have large amounts of items in these item stacks that the player is holding, when it comes to putting them inside of slots, the game is very particular on how it works. So if I try to place the entire stack here, it will only take 64 and I'll leave the rest in my hand. If I click again, you'll see it'll take another 64, and then when I click again, it'll put all the rest in the last slot. So in handling stacks, there's a limited amount of stuff you can do with them while keep them in those large stacks. So besides holding them directly in your hand, you can also go and drop them off to the side. So here I have 127 and I can drop them off to the side. They're going to drop down on the ground, and they are a single item stack, as you can see, and they're all there as well. So if I walk up to the stack, you'll see I'll pick up two different stacks even though they're all clumped together. So something quite strange happens when you try to place these overstacked items into a hopper. So I'm going to stand over top of the brewing stand. I'm going to rotate my screen while also clicking into the brewing stand. So you see my guy is hovering over top of the hopper. I'll pick up two stacks, so we have 127. I'll also drop them off to the side, and they will fall directly into hopper, and they actually got picked up. But what the game does is when there is a single item stack and it tries to take it all in, it will only take in 64 to fill up the first slot. All the rest of the items will get deleted. So if I go ahead and click this, you can see it's not visual. All I get back is 64 out of the 127 that I threw down. So these stacks that are higher than 64 are only one entity, and I can show this by dropping some on top of this gold pressure plate over here. You can see it only puts an output of 1, meaning that there's one entity here. Now there is a funny behavior to do with these overstacks. The game doesn't really render them in multiplayer, but they do in single player if you go over stacks 127, and every other 127 after that will do the same thing. So if I go ahead and click into this brewing stand, 127 will render. If I go click one more time, you see it show up in my inventory, but if I throw them off to the side and throw them on the ground, they are there, I even have hitboxes showing, so they should be able to show up, but they're completely invisible here on a multiplayer server. You can see they are putting off a single strength, and if I walk up to them, you'll see I'm able to pick them all up. So it's pretty cool. You can get some invisible items on the ground that players can not see, but are able to pick up, and I'm actually picked up all the items as well, so I picked up the 3 stacks I clicked on. Now these stacks of over 64 can do just fine on the ground in most circumstances, and you can keep them on loaded chunks and they'll always be there. But to permanently store these, there is a way to do it, and you can use a zombie that has pick up loot being true. So we got one of these zombies here. I'll go ahead and lock this hopper so that when I drop the items down, he can pick them up. So let me go ahead and click into this brewing stand. I'll just click a stack of 127 and throw there on the ground there, and the zombie will be able to pick him up. You can see him even being held in his hand there. Now when you go ahead and kill the zombie at any point, he'll drop all the glass bottles. So you can see I have none in my inventory, and if I just hop down in here and pick them up, you can see now I got all the items that I dropped to him previously. So like I said earlier, when you go to every 127 and go beyond that, there's another 127 sets of bottles that will always be invisible when placed on the ground. So let me just go with 199, and these will be invisible when I drop them. Now these type of items are not tracked by the game very well, and if I would read log and these chunks would unload, the game would not keep track of those and they would just delete them. Now the same problem occurs with zombies. So if I would drop this zombie stacks of over 127, but less than the next set of 127, so there's kind of like a spectrum. Every 127 and every repeating one will have invisible sets of bottles. So let me go ahead and just drop these to the zombie. He will pick them up and they will be in his inventory, and we can use a command to look at that. So I just use this command here. It says entity data. We're looking at a zombie, and he is the closest one with a radius of only 1 meter. This is the output of this command. You can see in his hand, he is holding some stuff. He's holding item glass bottles, and the count is negative 66. And because of it being negative, when we would reload these chunks, the zombie will immediately lose the items that are inside of his hand. So if you want the zombie to carry large stacks and be able to kill him and still have the items fall on the ground, and also have it stay with the zombie when it is reloaded, so you want to make sure it falls within these ranges, and we'll put a Google Documents in the description where you'll have a calculations where you can type in the number of bottles that you currently have, and it'll tell you if it's going to be saved or not saved by the zombie. When the glass bottle is officially saved for the game, even if you have really high stacks, they're only going to save up to 127. If you go over that number, it may be invisible, and even if it does show up, higher numbers will just loop back around to lower numbers. So the highest amount of glass bottles you can put on a zombie is 127. That will be saved by the server. This trick with the glass bottles only works with glass bottles and brewing stands, so you can't like click any other type of item in there and get these really large stacks. Now there is some funkiness that can occur when reloading these type of chunks with these invisible items. So let me go ahead and I'll take 190 and just drop them onto this pressure plate. You can see it's activated. So some strange stuff can occur with these guys. If we will unload these chunks with a player, so I'll just leave the area. And if we move off this direction, those chunks are going to unload. But we don't allow autosave to occur. So now those chunks are unloaded for the player. And if I go back now, you'll see that the items that are on the pressure plate still are pressing down and are lighting up this lantern, but they're unable to be picked up by the player. So if I walk in here, you'll see I'm unable to pick up any of these items. I can even stand directly on the pressure plate and get off of it. There is no items here that I can pick up. And even if I break the pressure plate and place it down, you'll see that it seems like there's no entities pressing this down, but if I update it by staying on top of it and leaving, you'll see that it will continue to press it downwards. This reminds me a lot of a bug to do with entities that will get duplicated over chunk borders. And essentially, there'll be a ghost entity that doesn't get rendered by the game and is still able to press down pressure plates and interact with the world in certain ways. But the weird thing about this glitch here is that if we go ahead and we will unload these chunks and also allow an autosave to occur, and this is similar to like a server restarting as well, the invisible items here will disappear altogether. So let's go ahead and move away from this area. And then we'll run the save all command, which is similar to like autosave occurring. And then if we go back, you see that there is nothing pressing down the pressure plate. If we go ahead and place it down again, update it, you'll see it acts like a normal pressure plate, and the items are actually deleted by the server by that point. So if anybody knows what might be going on in this circumstance, go ahead and tell me in the comments. I'm really curious. So this is a pretty cool discovery, and we'll maybe even try attempt to get some of these glass files given to a zombie on the ProtoTech server. And also while recording this, we came across some other discoveries which we'll put into a different videos, so you guys can look forward to that. Big thanks to a Square for joining me in this testing. He did quite a bit of testing to do with this and figuring out the maximum amount of bottles that could be placed in it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. And if you guys found this interesting, be sure to give this video a like as well as share this with others. And if you guys like to see more crazy stuff like this that can be done in vanilla survival, be sure to go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell button for notifications. And if you have any other crazy ideas that this can be used for, please tell us down in the comments. Bye-bye!